Welcome to the journey of an awakening spirit with your host, Kathleen Flanagan. The journey of an awakening spirit is about teaching you a variety of tools that you can use to step into your true self. It is about self-discovery, realizing you are not alone on your journey. We will open the phone lines, give readings, and talk about what our listeners want to know. So please welcome the host of the journey of an awakening spirit, Kathleen Flanagan.
Hello, everyone. This is Kathleen Flanagan with the Journey of an Awakening Spirit, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. And we have Jenn Drummond in the studio with us today, and we will be talking with her shortly. But first, I want to introduce the show and do some sound therapy. The purpose of the show is to help you realize you are not alone. You are in control of your life. It does not matter what your lot in life is or where you came from. We have all felt pain, suffering, hurt, abandonment, loneliness, hopelessness, etc. The show helps you to take those dark moments and turn them around to create a whole new you. We were taught to be a certain way, to act a certain way, to conform to society. Being socialized is not bad, but it can put constraints on us. The guests I bring on the show are telling you their story of where they came from, the obstacles they overcame, and where they are today. They are sharing the tools they use to recreate themselves for their life. Some of the guests are still in their process, beginning a new process, comfortable in their process, or even reinventing themselves. They are giving you tools that they use to gain insight into themselves, to take control of their life, and become the person they are today. On podcast.kathleenmflanagan.com is a list of the guests that I have on the show with their contact information. I am aware that you may resonate with one or several of them. My desire is that this becomes a community where you have access to the people you wish to align with and utilize the tools that they have, as well as the tools being offered on the kathleenmflanagan.com site. Awakening Spirit is an aromatherapy-based body care line that offers alternative healing remedies that use natural and organic ingredients. We are offering a 40% discount by entering Brave TV into the coupon code. The products are guaranteed. If a product does not work, please contact me and we can reformulate the product specifically for you. Grandma'sNaturalRemedies.net is a CBD company that uses essential oils in every blend and either has broad spectrum or an isolate. Every product is tested and the lab results are on the website. We are offering a 20% discount by entering Brave TV into the coupon code. I start the show every week with sound from the tuning forks. I bring in love, happiness, and balance. This sets the tone for the show and brings out the best in both myself and my guest. Let's begin. Jenn Drummond is a mom of 7, successful business owner, and world record holder. As the first woman to climb the second highest summits on each of the 7 continents, she now spends her time inspiring others to create a thriving business and lasting legacy of their own. She shares her story and strategies for success through her book, Breakproof: 7 Strategies to Build Resilience and Achieve Your Life Goals, and her Seek Your Summit podcast programs and signature talks. Learn more about how she elevates devoted and determined entrepreneurs to go beyond a life of success to a life of significance. Welcome, Jenn.
Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey of becoming an awakening spirit?
Yes. Well, it started in October of 2018. I was introduced to the book, The Surrender Experiment. And so I read this book and I journaled on it for an additional month. And I just remember starting that process thinking, surrender is a weakness. Why would anybody surrender? Why would they give up? Like, this is crazy. Like, who does this stuff? That's quitting. And by the end of my 2 months with this word surrender, I realized it was actually a superpower. And when you can surrender and accept what is, you have so much more energy to create what you desire. So interesting enough, the universe tested me. And on December 18 of 2018, I got into a horrific car crash that I think prior to reading that book, I would have like doubled down, cinched hard, and tried to resist the car accident. And I remember watching the semi hit my passenger side headlight and saying, the only way I'm going to survive is if I surrender. And so I put my hands on the steering wheel, I put my head on the headrest, and I just talked myself through the accident. So I was going 1 time over, 2 times over, 3 times over. Now I knew I had enough momentum, but not to flip over. So then I started doing sideways rolls and ended up upside down in the median. I remember hanging there and having an individual yell, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I heard them, but I didn't really think they were talking to me. It just felt like it was in the background. And then this individual pulled back the windshield and he looked at me and we caught eyes and he goes, "Are you okay?" I just remember thinking, looking at his face, I was not okay. Like if that guy was telling me I was not okay. So I was afraid to look at my body. So what I did is instead is I closed my eyes and shut out the world. And I started to wiggle my fingers and toes. And I just remember saying out loud, I can feel my fingers and toes. I can feel my fingers and toes. I'm going to be okay. And then he looked at me and he goes, "You are." And so he talked with me till the ambulance came. The ambulance came. They took me to the hospital to just make sure nothing was wrong that we couldn't see. And I was discharged the same day. And I remember walking into my house, seeing my kids running around crazy, having no clue what I just went through, and thinking, wow, that was really close to having 7 orphans today.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So what came out of after having that accident? I mean, here you are surrendering, trusting a process you never believed in to begin with. You surrender, you survive a horrific accident that you probably should have been dead in. And here you are coming home. Nobody has a clue that mom almost died 10, 15, 20 minutes out before.
Right. Yeah. I just remember for probably, and I wish I could say it was longer, but reality is probably for the next 3 to 4 months, everything was magic. Like no longer did I need to intervene in things that before I felt needed my opinion. So it was interesting. I remember watching my kids fight. And instead of being like, stop fighting or don't do that or get along with your sibling, I just sat there and I watched in awe that I could have 2 children that were so convinced of their opinion that they wanted nothing more than their sibling to feel the same way. And so instead of me intervening, I remember the kids being done with the fight and they're looking at me and they're like, "Mom, you didn't say anything." I'm like, "No, I'm just happy that I'm here to witness this. Like, I think this is magic that you guys care so much about each other that you want to be on the same page. That's magic." And the crazy thing about the accident was a few weeks after it, I got a phone call from the police. And they had tried to rebuild my accident over 50 times. They could not build a scenario where I survived, let alone walked away. So at that point, all of a sudden, everything's magic because I'm here. Everything's a bonus moment. Everything's a bonus experience that I almost didn't get to have. Time that with a girlfriend of mine went running on a trail. And she invited me to go running one day. And I said, I can't. I've got too much going on. It was kind of wet out, so it wasn't ideal circumstances. And so she went running. It would be a trail that you and I would push a stroller on. It was wet. She slipped. She hit her head, and she never came home.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so I'm metabolizing this horrific car crash that no one can create a scenario where I should live. and my friend does something that's healthy and doesn't get to come home. And when I was trying to process these two stream events, I just realized we don't get to choose when we die, but we sure get to choose how we live and how we show up and what we do with this life of ours. And I just remember feeling so empowered that I was saved. I was kept alive for a reason. I need to live life to show life that it is a gift by living it and giving that back.
Were you more or less in, I mean, a mother of 7, we know you have a crazy busy schedule and it's all about your kids.
Yeah.
Were you in that type of a scenario? Was there anything else going on in your life that, aside from the accident, because that was a huge wake-up call, that's very evident it was.
Right.
And then how did your family feel? I mean, once you told them, I'm sure that had to make some changes with them as well.
You know, I think when everybody saw the car, right? Like when you actually saw the car that looked like a tin can, it made it really real for all of us. And I had conversations with my kids because I would say the accident was a line in the sand for me. Before the accident, I was striving, I was pushing hard. If I was being totally honest, I was kind of at a plateau in my life, coasting. I had put myself in a position to be able to be a stay-at-home mom because I thought that'd be the dream position to be in. And I was there and I wasn't fulfilled. And I didn't know how to get myself back and not feel guilty about that. And I just remember telling myself, once my kids go to college, then I can do me. Once this happens, then that can happen. And I think we all can fall guilty to that story, right? The if-then scenario. If this happens, then I'll be happy. If I'm this weight, then I'll be happy. If I get this payroll, then I'll whatever. Fill in the blank for yourself. And I was at that stage. And the car accident woke me up and it made me realize I'm allowed to have my own way of doing life, and it doesn't have to fit into society's directive. And in fact, I'm here to show that we have other options. There's other ways to do things. And I just remember telling my kids, like, listen, mommy had a life-changing accident. And so she's going to start doing things a little bit different. And we're just going to have to communicate through it. Because if you feel left out or not loved or not seen, I want to know, because I'm here for you and you give me meaning. But at the same time, my life has meaning too, and I need to start stepping into that.
Well, when we come back, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to ask you a couple of questions about how your kids responded to that, because that's such a different take for children to adopt to.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and with the Journey of an Awakening Spirit, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. We are here with Jenn Drummond, and she has just made a decision to change her life, and I'd like to know how your kids responded to that.
Yeah, they were super supportive. I think kids are watching us on how to do life, right? And before, I felt I was checking the boxes. And after the accident, I was definitely more animated. I was more excited. I was more like, how does this feel? What do you think? Let's try this thing. Like, because I was more excited, I gave them permission to be more excited because I was more curious. They're watching and now they can become more curious. So our children are very much mirrors of what we are in life. And when we learn to step into our authenticity and own what sets us on fire, it gives them permission to do the same.
So what made you decide to climb the 7 summits or go through the continents? I mean, because here you are as a housewife with 7 kids, and now you're out there climbing these massive mountain peaks all over the world. I mean, what went on in your mind? How did you get there? How was your family supporting you?
Yeah,
that's a big change.
That was a huge change, right? So 2019 was the year of my bucket list. What do I want to do? What do I want to experience? If this was the end of my life, like what are things I want checked off? And on that list was climb a mountain. In 2020, I was turning 40. So when I looked at my list of like, what do I want to do on my list for my 40th birthday? Climb a mountain stood out because I'm like, I'm only going to get older. So it's only going to get harder. So I might as well do that now. And I asked some friends that were into mountaineering, if you could pick one mountain in the whole world that you would climb, what would it be? And more than one person said, I would climb Ama de Blanc. I'm like, I'd never heard of it, but I'm like, okay. They're like, yeah, it's the Paramount Pictures logo. So now every single time you go to a movie, it's by Paramount, and you see the stars circling that mountain, you can say you climbed that. Like, that's kind of cool. I'm like, perfect. I'm going to climb Ama de Blanc. Okay. If we remember 2020 in the beginning of the year, not too far in, COVID enters the scene. And so now I'm not climbing anything. And in fact, I'm a homeschool teacher to 7 children because all the schools shut down. And one day, one of my guys was struggling with his math homework. And so I gave him that parent pep talk, like, we do hard things. You've got this. Don't you worry. And he looks at me and he goes, Mom, if we do hard things, why are you climbing a mountain called I'm a Dumb Blonde instead of a real mountain like Mount Everest?
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Like, honey, it is Ama de Blanc, not I'm a Dumb Blonde, but thank you very much. And so like, I think the universe has humor. Like the universe is funny, right? Like if we let it, it will be funny. So all of a sudden we're looking at Everest. He goes to bed. I'm still looking at Everest. And I said, you know what? If this kid thinks Everest is the hardest thing in the whole world, I'm going to go climb it. And I'm going to show him that whatever our Everest is, we can hit the summit. So I call a coach. I tell him like, hey, I want to train for Everest. He's like, I can get you ready. Buy this book about becoming an uphill athlete. So I buy this book. I'm reading it. My coach calls me and I'm like half joking. And I tell him, I'm like, there's a lady in the front of the book who got a Guinness World Record for doing something in the Alps. And I just told him like, I do hard things all the time. I could do that. And I would have gotten a Guinness World Record. And my kids would think I'm the coolest mom in the whole world. Because right now, I'm not cool. Like homeschooling is not working out for us at all. And my coach is like, oh, I'll think of something. Don't worry. I'm like, okay, fine. So I kind of let it go. And then he calls me back a few weeks later and he's like, Jen, I have the perfect world record for you. I think you should be the first female to climb the 7-second summits. I'm like, it sounds like a tongue twister. I don't even know what you're talking about. He's like, no, listen. The second summits are the second highest peak on each of the 7 continents. They're actually harder than the first 7. Only one male has done it. So you would be the first woman to do this. And he goes, if you think about it, 7 continents, 7 mountains, 7 children, it sounds like a jackpot. I'm like,
oh gosh.
it does sound like a jackpot. I've never slept in a tent before, and I've barely hiked any mountains, but let's try it. Like, why not? Right? It was one of those whole body yeses that made 0 sense because I had 0 mountaineering experience. But I figured, you know what? You tell me where to go, we'll figure it out. And I said yes. And here we are.
I guess that death experience must have really done a lot of rewiring in your brain, because I mean, I understand what you did and it makes sense to me, but there's a part of me that's like, this doesn't make any sense of why she did this.
Right.
I mean, you come out of a death experience, you have 7 kids, you have all this ambition to go out and try something like that. So what was it? What prepared you? I mean, I understand because there was no more holds bar. I get that. I mean, when people die, they know that they're not death. It's deathless. They're deathless. That's the bottom line. We're not going to die. Our bodies die, but we don't.
Yep.
So what actually did you have to do to prepare, and how did your kids get behind you and your husband on this? Because that's a big change. That's a big, huge commitment on your part with 7 kids at home.
Yeah. Like, I think when you're excited about something, you can't hide it. And everybody just knows it, right? Like, that's an energy field that you tap into, and you know when it's real. And so everybody was like, cool, my mom's going to set a world record. My mom's going to be in the book that taught me how to read. That's awesome, right? Like, they're too young to understand the dangers of it. I surrounded myself with enough people that had done these types of adventures. So by the time I presented the concept to my parents, I felt a little more bulletproof, because if I would have told them first, they would have been like, no, you're not. That's cute. Not happening. And yeah, and I figured, like, hey, it had never been done before. So let's say it doesn't work out. Who cares? Like, I think that was a big thing that the accident shifted. I used to have to do things to win. After the accident, I just had to do things to have the experience. It wasn't about the destination. It was about the journey. And I'm like, okay, if I get 4 mountains in and it doesn't end up working out like I thought it did, I'm not a worse off person. I have a lot of new experiences that are in my mind that I can now carry forward. Like, it's going to be okay.
Did your husband, did he come with you, or did he just stay at home with the kids and you were on this adventure all by yourself?
Yeah, this was definitely my adventure. I'm probably the more athletic one, and it was my calling, right? So I had support from my family and everybody, but this was definitely something I'm doing. Now, I will say my 3 oldest boys are interested in climbing. So now that this record is done, I'm taking them to Africa in February, and we're going to go climb Kilimanjaro, which is the highest point in Africa, where I went the last time I climbed the second highest point, which was Mount Kenya.
Wow, that's amazing. So what all did you have to do as far as your mindset when you made this decision? I mean, it's one thing to have the enthusiasm. It's one thing to have all that, a resounding yes in your body. I understand all of that. But there's still parts that come up that you had to feel something a little, I don't know if it would have been remorse, because I believe that life is an experience. I mean, I've always said I'm here to experience life, whatever that is to me, because we all have it instead of the 9 to 5. I just never got behind that. But what all did you have to do? And then how long from the time that you made the decision that you were going to go and do the climbing to when you actually went? And was it successful? I mean, did you go like every year thereafter, or how did that look?
Yeah, so the adventure started in the fall of 2020. As countries started to open, then I would go climb where it made sense. So the interesting thing about mountaineering is that mountains have seasons. So that's why you'll always see Everest summits in May, right? Or you'll see K2 summits in July, or you'll see, so different mountains you climb at different times of the year. So in the beginning, it was like what opened based on COVID and what mountain was in season to climb. So that's how it started. So my first climb for the pursuit was in December of 2020. I failed 2 of the mountains twice. So I had to do 2 mountains over. And so I just finished the pursuit June 1st of 2023. So it took me about 2.5 years to do it all. And the nice thing is that the training kind of built, right? Like what you learn for one mountain helps you claim the next mountain and helps you climb the next mountain. I am a mom first, then a business owner, then an athlete. So it's very easy to build your calendar when you know who you are. And so I'd look at my calendar, make sure that my calendar looked like that versus athlete first, then business owner, then mother, right? That's how you hold yourself accountable to what you say you're doing. And so a lot of times my training was broken up into bits and pieces. I would go to a soccer game of my son's and I'd bring a 12-inch step and a backpack full of water bottles. And during his soccer game, instead of sitting and watching, I'd be on the sideline doing my little step ups while I was training and watching him play so that I could get both things to happen. So you just get creative.
So were your kids really excited when you got into it? I mean, did you have an award ceremony or something when you get into the Guinness Book of Records? How does that work? Because I've never met somebody who was actually in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah, like everybody does it different. The fun thing about having kids is they keep you humble. I remember coming home from my last climb. I just set the world record. And so I was feeling pretty good about myself, if I had to be honest. And I get off the plane. My kids meet me at the airport. They all give me hugs. And then my son goes, "Mom, you have bad breath." And I'm like, and there we are, back to everyday motherhood. Nothing special over here. Just to let you guys know, I've been on a plane for 12 hours and got called out. So there we have it.
Oh, that's so funny. Leave it to kids. I mean, honesty is just something that they do. And you're right. They keep you very humble. So how was it a letdown when you were finally done with this? Or do you have like another adventure that you're planning? Because I can't imagine that you climb 7 mountains. And I know there's got to be a little bit of a letdown because, you're just building and building and building. And there's got to be something more that just keeps that. But then you're also bringing it in. And yeah, I mean, tell us about that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, in the beginning, it felt like it was never going to happen. Right? Like it's so far away. What did I even say yes to? This is crazy. Like, what am I doing? And then you get halfway through and you realize, oh man, I better start enjoying these moments because this is actually happening. Like this stuff is, I'm not going back to these places. Right? So when I went to climb in Antarctica, I'm not going back to Antarctica. That mountain's only been climbed 15 times before we climbed it. There's too many other things in this world. So all of a sudden when you realize this is the last time I'm going to be in this part of the world or doing this activity, it helps you savor it. And then when you get to the last one, you're sitting there thinking, man, this might be done. This has been my story for the last 2.5 years of my life. If we get to the top of this thing, we're done. And I remember saying to myself, like when I was done, like there is a tinge of sadness. There is a tinge of like, wow, it really happened. Now it's done. What does this mean? What do I do? And I think our society has trained us so much to say, what's next? What's next? What's next? That I really was intentional about saying, I'm going to celebrate what is. And I am taking a year off of committing to anything or doing anything big because I'm an easy person to get going. I'm a hard person to stop. And I want to teach my children that when we do big things, after that, we need to recharge our batteries and recalibrate and rest and really honor what has just happened so that we can go into the next thing with intention and energy and the willingness to pursue.
Do you have any idea what you want to do next? Or are you still taking in and celebrating this massive accomplishment?
Yeah, I have a book coming out in January. So like that's been a big thing on my plate to keep me busy. I'm taking the boys climbing in February. My 1-year anniversary comes up in June, which feels fast all of a sudden. Like, okay, what is this next thing going to be? But I trust that, I never knew I was going to climb a mountain before. And all of a sudden, look what I just did. So I trust that whatever shows up, I'll be able to figure it out.
Well, I know that when I feel like I don't know where I want to go and I just I call it limbo, it's the wrong word, but when you just need to take that moment with yourself and be quiet and be still, and it doesn't matter how long it is. I find that's when some of the greatest adventures and gifts start coming, because I stop moving long enough to say yes, instead of I'm moving so fast that it just goes by like a thought and it never comes back.
Yep.
Is that what you're finding as well?
Yeah, I did, when we were in COVID, I did this thing called the Artist's Way, which is a 12-week journaling program. And it taught, like, you learn how to sit and, like, in the beginning, you write 3 pages, and it's a lot of work. And then as you get trained, all of a sudden you write pages, and then stuff kind of starts flowing out of you like a faucet that hasn't been ran for a while. And then you start getting into the flow of stuff. So I know, like, right now I'm slowing down and some ideas are starting to percolate, but I'm just not willing to grasp at any of them yet, because I want them to form a little bit more.
Okay. Well, when we come back, we will just learn a little bit more about what you're doing today. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. And we have Jenn Drummond in the room with us today. So, Jenn, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing. How has your relationship with your children and your husband and even extended family members changed for you since all of this occurred?
Yeah, I think one of the things we all learned is that big mountains take big teams. And so if you're going to take on a big pursuit in your life, you need a big team behind you to make it happen. So all of us went on this journey. I might have been the one physically at the location, but we were all connected and supporting each other in ways that we needed. I think my kids learned a lot about being able to count on other people. Like, there's more than just this mom in their life. They have a lot of moms if they want some. I think all of us learned that we are our only limitation, right? Like, we are the ones that get in the way of doing what we desire. And so when we're in a struggling spot, just to pause and say, okay, what am I doing here to block this or prevent this or make this harder than it needs to be?
So how has your relationship with your husband changed from all of this?
I mean, I think that's probably been the least changed relationship, to be
Really?
honest with you. Yeah.
Wow.
I think we were very supportive of each other's pursuits and passions always. And we have always been each other's cheerleader. So, I mean, when I took this on, he stepped up and did what you should do. And we're in a good spot, but we've always been in a good spot because we've had a very open relationship, just supporting the other person.
Oh, that's great. Because a lot of times other things can come up in relationships when one's off traveling the world and the other one's being the stay-home parent. So that's amazing. That's great. That's encouraging.
Hey, yeah.
You work hard at something like that. Trust me, I know that one. You work hard to have somebody that supports you to that degree. So what are some of the things that you're thinking that you want to do? I mean, I know that you said you had a bucket list that you were working on. So what other big adventures do you have that, even if it's not today or tomorrow, but something that, what other big adventures are you wanting to accomplish?
Yeah, I think a lot of us hit this point of success, right? And then once you hit success, you crave significance. So now that I've done this huge thing that was successful, I'm really been focusing like, how do I make it significant? How do I make it apply to the person that will never climb a mountain? How do I take those lessons and share them so that other people can find themselves in my story? Because I think we are all so many different versions of each other, and learning how to unite instead of separate is definitely something that I feel is on my forefront. And just being able to share the story and say like, hey, I stepped into this pursuit. I had no clue where it was going to take me, but I had this direction that it gave me. And then the universe stepped in and allowed a whole bunch of other beautiful things unfold along the way that I would have never intended, but I'm so glad it showed up. So for example, I went to climb Mount Kenya in Africa. And before I got into this pursuit, I had no social media. I was kind of against social media. I only saw the negative of it. And one of my girlfriends said, listen, Jen, the closest we're going to ever get to these mountains is through you. So you have to share the experience because I get to live through you in this experience. I'm like, okay, fine. I just feel really vulnerable saying like, I'm going to do this thing when I don't know if it's going to happen or not because I haven't done it yet. And the beauty of that was I put like, I'm pursuing this world record. Well, some charity at one point found me and said, oh, listen, we're trying to donate an ambulance to a charity in Kenya. It looks like you need to go to Kenya to be able to climb one of your mountains. Would you be willing to partner with us to be the face of the charity so that we don't have to spend the money to send another human being over? I'm like, okay, fantastic. Of course I'll be a part of that. Are you kidding? And so then I could use that charity who had relationships on the ground in Kenya and ask them like, who is the climbing company that people use to climb this mountain? Just like if someone wanted to come to Utah, and they wanted to go skiing, if they knew me, I would be able to tell them like, here's what you do. Here's who you call. Here, like you just have different intel because you're in that environment. And so it really taught me how to wave my flag along my journey and be like, here's who I am. Here's what I'm trying to achieve. Here's what I need. And here's how I can help. And when you do that, then it starts sending a signal to others in the world, and you start collaborating with people that you never knew existed, and amazing things happen.
Well, it sounds like it. I mean, people would say it's almost a charmed life, but it's you did all this. You're the one that's doing this. You had a friend that says, hey, I'm never going to go to that mountain, so do this for me so I can live vicariously through you. Because a lot of times that's what people do because they're afraid to do that themselves, or they don't feel worthy, or they're scared, or whatever the reason is. And here you are doing this, which I would assume gave a lot of your friends a lot of more openness in their life. Like they didn't have to limit themselves anymore. Because something like that helps you realize you are a limitless person. And it's a matter of putting your mind to what you're doing. So if you put your mind to doing something, of course, the universe is going to open up and support you along the way.
Yeah.
So when that started happening, I mean, I think that's amazing that, you supported a charity that helps the people over there while you're doing something for yourself. I mean, if that doesn't make you feel good about yourself, I don't know what would, you know? And if you didn't go on social media, that would never have happened for you. They wouldn't have known about it.
Right. And I would say another piece of it was like, I remember going to climb Everest. Everest for most people is a 6 to 8 week adventure. I'm like, I cannot be gone for 6 to 8 weeks. Like that is not an option. There has to be another way to make this happen. And so I didn't say no to Everest. I just said, no, I'm not going to be gone for this amount of time. So then that made me start to look for different ways to make my expedition quicker or shorter. And I actually found a company out of New York named Hypoxico that you can buy a tent from and put on your bed, and it simulates an environment that has less oxygen in it. So then that stresses your body to make more red blood cells. And so then all of a sudden you trick your body to think like you're on the mountain at some level, right? So that allowed my Everest expedition to be 3 weeks instead of 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh my God.
So even me, though, I'm like 3 weeks is a long time. I've never been away from home that long. What does this mean? Like, how does this work? Blah, 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 blah. So I went to my kid's school and I told the teacher, I'm like, hey, listen, I have help lined up. The nanny's here, grandma's here. Everybody's lined up to do what they're supposed to do. But I know with me gone, my kids are still going to have a hard time. So I'm just letting you know so that maybe you can offer them a little bit more grace during these next few weeks because you know what's going on behind the scenes. My teacher came back to me and she said, Jen, why don't you come in and teach the kids about setting an Everest-like goal? We'll have all the kids color little hikers and we'll decorate the hallway with what their Everest goal is. And then they put a huge Mount Everest in the front of the building. And then we made a little hiker that was me, and I had a tracking device on me. So now every day when the kids went into school, they could see where I was on the mountain because the tracking device would update. And then I had the ability to call in from base camp to the classrooms over Zoom because there's Wi-Fi at base. So now all of a sudden I can answer questions at the school and talk to the kids and they can see my face and we can interact. And so I'm the one who was sad that I was on Everest because I have all this downtime. My kids never felt more supported in their life, right? Like everybody's like, here's what your mom's doing. Here's where she is. This is awesome, blah, 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 blah. And I benefited from that because when I'm on the mountain and I hit some scary points, which you do, I just remember thinking there's a whole school watching what I'm doing. I have to be able to have the courage to get through this section because they're watching. And so it held me accountable to a force and source bigger than myself. And so all of a sudden I summited Everest, the whole town summited Everest. Everybody felt like amazing and excited and whatever. I came home. Now I have little kids that come over that are my kids' friends. And they're like, you're the mom that climbed Mount Everest. I'm like, yeah, I am. They're like, I want to climb Everest someday. I'm like, I will be your coach. When you're ready, I'm here for you. You just let me know. And so this thing that I was so afraid of, right? I was afraid that I was going to be gone too long. My kids were going to be hurt, like all these different things. That fear wasn't like, don't do it. That fear was, what other solutions do you have besides this fear? And all of a sudden, when I started getting curious about that fear and figuring out, okay, how do I address this? How do I address this? How do I address this? Magic unfolded, like literally.
I love it. I love it. So the book that you wrote, is it about your adventures or is this going to be the prelude of where Jen goes next?
So the book is called Break Proof: 7 Strategies to Build Resilience and Achieve Your Life Goals. And the reason why I named it Break Proof is because we're humans and we're going to break. The key to our breaks is evaluating them for proof. What's working? What's not working? What do I know now? So that when I go to climb up the mountain again, I'm better prepared, or I know what's expected, or I can get it the next time, right? So the book title is Break Proof. And then what I do is I take the reader on the adventure of climbing. So we go to each one of the mountains and I highlight a specific lesson from that mountain that you can apply to your own life. Because while I climb physical mountains, everybody listening here is climbing metaphorical ones. And the lessons apply to both.
Wow, I love that. What a beautiful book to write, because we do that. because when we traverse in our life, we're going back and forth, we're switchbacking. You do the same thing on a mountain going up there. It's not a straight up to the summit. You're going through all sorts of different experiences on a mountain. I mean, I can see a lot of things coming from this as far as, if you're going to be a coach or a teacher or instructor. I mean, I just see something coming in with this book, because it's like you've taken like all this metaphorical stuff, grounded it into a real life experience. And so people can actually probably read your book and go, I've been there. I've been on that mountain. I know I've been on that mountain, because, it still comes from inside. I mean, we still feel, if we're living it or not, we're still feeling that experience. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we'll wind up the show after that.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery, or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. We have Jenn Drummond with us today, and she was just discussing her new book and what that she's taken. Every single person is going to go on the journey with her. So do you have any idea of what you think possibly could come from this? Because I'm getting all sorts of hits of what can happen. Are you getting anything? Because I think you are.
Yeah, no, I have been on stage recently sharing some of the lessons from the book. And I'll be on a stage of like 500 people, 800 people, 100 people. And it's just the best part is afterwards and having those aha moments from the people in the audience and be like, oh, I now see it from a different perspective, or I now get it, or that makes sense. And when you watch the story transfer to somebody else and then watch them find a piece of themselves in it and then make a shift in their life, there's not a better gift, right? I mean, it's so rewarding to just have that transfer happen. And so I really hope I get to continue to be on stages because it really fills my heart. And I love connecting with people and just seeing what other people are doing and how they're stuck in ways that maybe I can see them, and maybe they're showing me ways that I'm stuck or not growing or not doing things that are best for myself. And we're just so connected to each other. And I'm so grateful for that.
I find that to be very true. People, I mean, we say that there are mirrors of us, but they are good or bad. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as good or bad. It's what is. We just have limitations that we have within ourselves that we don't know that are there. And we do need other people to tell us, because we are blind to certain things about ourselves. And the gift of people is allowing you to see that, so you can step into your greatness and be a bigger version of who you are. And you have definitely stepped into a bigger version of you. There is no doubt in my mind that you have gone down a really huge path. And I see a lot of great things coming. Further, what is one piece of advice that you would tell our audience to help them to move into a different direction to achieve their dreams?
Yeah, I think it's some of the most simple things, right? Like, I think we make it hard because we want it to be hard, but we realize really it's like the little teeny tiny things we do every day that matter. And I'll give an example. When I was on the mountain and I had to brush my teeth every day, there was no mirror. The only thing I could look out as was the gorgeous universe that's in front of us. And I just remember thinking, wow, isn't this beautiful? What a great place to be able to brush my teeth and blah, 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 blah. And then I came home and I have a mirror in my bathroom. So I started brushing my teeth and I'd be looking at my face like, oh, I need to pluck my eyebrows, or I need to color my hair. Or I was picking myself apart. And I only noticed that I was picking myself apart because there's such a contrast to how I was doing my life the few days prior. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Life comes at us fast and hard enough. If I can't cheerlead myself, who is going to? And so then I talked to my kids. I'm like, does anybody else pick on themselves while they brush their teeth at my house? And they're like, oh, yeah, everybody kind of said, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, okay, listen, we're doing this thing called the toothbrush talk. So when you brush your teeth in the morning, or when you brush your teeth at night before you go to bed, while you're brushing, you're only allowed to say positive things about yourself. That's it. That's the only rule I have. And it's amazing how awkward it is at first, which is unfortunate. And then it's amazing, okay, you can finally get used to saying I love you and not be like, what's wrong with me? What a difference that teeny tiny little thing makes for your dreams at night, makes for your day that you start. I mean, it's fascinating that something that small can have an exponential effect on how you feel.
Well, and you have 7 children that you're going to probably totally change the course of their life just by what happened to you, and then going out and climbing the mountains. I mean, talk about a role leader, a role model beyond role models. I mean, who does that? Most parents don't do that. It's the 9 to 5, it's making a buck, it's slapping the food on the table, it's, running off to soccer, where it's crazy times instead of something exciting like a family. I mean, what a beautiful family unit you created for yourself, and giving your children big dreams to go after instead of being small. I love that. That's the best that you could have done. That's the gift. So why don't you tell our audience how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, no, please. So the best way is jendrummond.com. That's my website. You'll have access to the book, different things that I'm doing, where I'm speaking. And then also it has all my social media handles. So depending on your platform of choice, reach out, say hello, let me know you're out there. And in fact, I have a little gift for everybody that's listening today. If you want to text the word Everest to the number 33777, I'm going to send you this clip that you can keep on your phone that shows the Milky Way going over Everest Base Camp. And it's a video that I go back to all the time, because sometimes life gets hard or overwhelming or just feels big and heavy. And I'll look at that video and just remind myself, we are so insignificant. So how can this problem be so significant? It's not. I'm just making it significant. So text the word Everest to 33777 and save that photo, and that will help bring you back to the beauty of the life that we live.
Oh, I love it. I'm definitely going to be texting that. I'd like to see that. I think that would be amazing. Well, I want to thank you so much, Jenn, for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your story, what you've done, where you're going, and I'm definitely going to do the Everest thing and check out your social profile, because I don't always look at social media myself either. I'm I kind of have that attitude. I'm trying to shift that attitude of social media and just see what the adventures are, because I think just seeing that would be awesome to have just a little bit of the inclination and experience of what you've done. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming on the show and watching today. And if you like our show, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel at Kathleen M. Flanagan. And if you found value in it, please forward this to your friends and family. And I will see you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And from my heart to yours, I hope you have a fabulous week.
This has been the journey of an awakening spirit with your host, Kathleen Flanagan. Join Kathleen each week as she will inspire and empower all those who are drawn to her to live their highest vision in the context of love and joy. Right here Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.